you have some twisted desire to start some terrible e-commerce business, then from my 7 years of experience running them, here are the 8 steps you should take to start a e-commerce business that is doomed for failure and could likely bankrupt you. And I'm able to say all of these from personal experience, unfortunately, because I've done all of them. I've been on the brink of bankruptcy. I've been at the point of pulling my hair out and wondering, like, where did I go wrong with all of this? And I think some of these are going to really surprise you because nobody's talking about them. You've seen enough videos on the 7 steps to achieve whatever. Well, this is not that. This is the opposite. This is how to build a terrible business. And if you want to fail, if you're a glutton for punishment, then these are the steps you want to take because it's going to work. This I can guarantee. Now, obviously, this is tongue-in-cheek. You don't actually want to replicate these steps, but it's just a strategy for explaining the inverse of what you want to achieve. There's 2 ways to get after a goal. One is by focusing on what you want to do. Then the other is knowing what to avoid. This video is the latter. So the first thing you want to do to build a terrible e-commerce company is you want to focus on the product and not the audience. Now, the way you can do this, it's pretty simple. You just want to go to Alibaba, grab whatever piece of junk or whatever like trending product you've seen and just throw it up on a website without any regard whatsoever for who the audience is, what the market is, like what other products they could like, or any possible brand future. Think about the product and then hope that the rest will take care of itself. The second thing we want to do is don't learn from any of the competition or any of the other best practices that are already out there on the market that are readily available for us to look at. You certainly don't want to waste your time looking at any sites like Facebook Ad Library, TikTok Ad Library, Commerce Inspector, none of these tools that help you see under the hood of already successful companies and give you a blueprint of what's working and what's not. It's a much better idea for us to just sit down at our laptops and brainstorm and just see whatever comes out, that's what we're throwing up, because we truly prefer to learn things the hard way. If we want to build a bad company, we have to do things the hard way, not the smart way. That's not what we are after. So any lessons learned that could help us jumpstart our success by years, if not decades, we want to ignore all of that. And it'd be a complete waste of our time to, for example, look at a competitor's Facebook ad library, see what types of ads they're running, and then look at other competitors and see what ads they have in common. We don't want to be able to draw any conclusions from that about what our ads should look like, or for that matter, what their website layout is, their email sequences. We want to ignore all of that because we want it to feel like we are mashing our head against our keyboard, getting 0 results for as long as possible. While we're at it, that brings us to number 3, which is we want to focus on the ads and not the product. We want to completely forget about the fact that a great product can be sold by terrible ads, but terrible product can't be sold by great ads. We want to watch as many Facebook guru YouTube videos as we possibly can and put 90% of our time into the marketing of the business rather than actually just building a great product or catalog that people will love and want to come back to time and time again. And we're going to get it ingrained into our heads that if we were a better marketer, then things would just be working out. And along that same vein, the 4th thing that we want to do is we want to sit down at our laptop to launch ads for the very first time. And again, we're not looking at any of the competitors. We're not learning any best practices. We're just going to sit down with no idea of what we're going to launch in the ads. And we're just going to throw it up like 4, 5 ads, maybe. Certainly not 20, 30, 50, 100. That'd be crazy. We're just going to sit down, launch a couple, and then hope for the best. And then here's the key. Once it does terribly, which it will, we're just going to say, Facebook ads don't work. It's not on me. It doesn't work. And then we're going to go into Facebook groups and online communities where other people are already complaining about how Facebook ads don't work. And we're going to go, see, these guys know. And we are certainly not going to invest the time or energy into looking at the analytics behind our account. Because we know in building our terrible e-commerce business that click-through rate, cost per click, CPMs, all of those just icky numbers, they don't matter at all. And they certainly don't paint a bigger story for us to be able to understand what's working and what's not, and what we should be doing more of and iterating on, and what we should be cutting. No, we're just going to launch our 5 ads, and then when they don't work, we're good. Whereas if we got crazy and launched 50, 70 ads and had a decent sample size and tested out different strategies like videos, images, carousels, social proof, all kinds of different strategies and tactics, that might give us too big of a sample size to choose from, and we'd actually have some data to work off of to improve our results. But again, we're not trying to improve results. We are looking for terrible e-commerce ads. So that's how we get them. Then the fifth thing we want to do is we want to leave all of the low-hanging fruit on the table. We don't want to pick any of that. We only want the hardest sales that feels like we're trying to get blood from a stone, and that's the only way that we are going to make a single dollar. To give you some specifics, we're not going to do email, we're not going to do SMS, we're not going to build any kind of social proof, we're not going to do any affiliate programs or any of that stuff, because those are all ways that you can capitalize on your customers that you've already brought in the door, which is the hard part, but we only want the hard part. We don't want to do any of the easy stuff that gets recurring sales and builds lifetime value and builds an asset that can actually be sold for a lot of money. We're not doing any of that. So we certainly don't want to email our list twice a week or anything like that. We're definitely not going to send out SMS blasts 3 times a month or so. And we're also not going to add in anything like upsells or cross sells or try to boost our average order value with free shipping incentives. None of that stuff. And then number 6 is we're not building a brand. We are simply just product sellers. We find product, we sell product. That's it. And we don't try to mix in any of this, mumbo jumbo about like brand mission and like purpose and like all the stuff that like buyers nowadays like really connect with and builds lifetime value. We don't care about any of that. We don't want people thinking of us as like entity or like an asset that's like bigger than itself and like has purpose behind it. We just want them to know we are product. Yeah, I think that would work. Because when you build a brand, you get people doing gross stuff like coming back and buying from you again, telling their friends about you. And like, we just don't want any of that. And we certainly wouldn't want to invest into building a brand reputation as like decent, upstanding people that, have a reasonable refund policy, actually apologize when they make mistakes, all that crazy stuff. All that we want to do is once a product is sold, all sales are final, like take your stuff and get out, and good luck. Like if a customer ever writes in saying that something was wrong with the product, we just want to tell them to go pound sand. Like, that's your problem. It's not mine. We certainly don't want to be understanding and reasonable and like, God forbid, give them a refund, because that might lead to them having a good customer experience and like telling their friends and family and like them coming back themselves to buy from us time and time again. That might lead us down the path of starting a good company, which that's not what we want. And the 7th way that we're going to start a terrible e-commerce business is by not really understanding it before we get into it. Like, I personally did this one in spades on my first business. I spent every dollar to my name on a course to start an Amazon FBA business, not realizing that Amazon FBA requires you to buy a large amount of upfront inventory, which, hey, I had no money for. So I did great at this, not to brag, but I knocked it out of the park because then I was dead in the water and couldn't go anywhere with it. So that was the epitome of not understanding the business that I was getting into, specifically how it relates to me. Like if I had a lot of money to throw at it, Amazon FBA would have been great. But since I had no money, there were other avenues that I could have gone down if I wanted to start a good business, which I didn't, that would have been profitable and successful for me in the long term. That would have been slower, steadier growth, but still could have been a good outcome. But I didn't want that. And then the last thing we're going to do, and this one's important, so be sure to listen closely, is when the going gets tough, we're going to quit, because we know that if it's really going to go like this, there's not going to be any downtimes. Like if it's really going to be the right business for us, there shouldn't be any times where it's challenging. And we just want, whatever the gurus are showing us saying that, oh, I got these results. We just want that. We don't want any of the in-between stuff that nobody really talks about, like where, sales are down, you're making refunds, supply chain's a nightmare, your ads aren't working. All of that stuff we didn't sign up for. All that we signed up for was the end result. And when we don't get that, well, we're just going to quit. Because every great entrepreneurial story starts with somebody having an idea, and then it's just off to the races. Perfect, smooth sailing all the way to the top. And if that doesn't happen to us, then clearly something's off. It couldn't possibly be that all of those entrepreneurs and the gurus out there showing their screenshots actually had a lot of the downtimes, and the hard times were more often than the good times. So there you have it. There are 8 surefire ways to start a terrible e-commerce company. If that's what you're looking to do, I highly recommend, all jokes aside, doing the exact opposite of each of these. These were all mistakes that I made myself along the way, so don't beat yourself up if you end up making one of these mistakes. It's all good. It's just a learning experience. But especially number 8, like realizing that there are going to be times where it's tough, and the real success is in the journey, as cliche as that sounds, but it's really in who you become along the way, because that's the kind of person that can reach the end goal. And it's about rewarding yourself every step of the way, every little win, counting those, and even when you lose, you learn. That's the mentality to adopt, so that these 8 things can never get in your way. And I wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you in the next video.